No one in the ballroom understood why the stranger stood up, not when 200 executives were still laughing, not when a young woman sat frozen in her chair, her fingers trembling around a porcelain teacup. The man walked slowly toward the stage, placed a cashier's check on the polished oak table, and spoke in a calm voice that somehow silenced every conversation in the room. "This is a $2 million deposit to acquire the remaining shares of Harrington & Co." A long pause followed. Effective immediately, his eyes settled on the department manager standing proudly beside the podium. "You're no longer making decisions here." The laughter disappeared. Every face in the ballroom turned toward the stranger. No one seemed to know his name. No one dared ask. And the young woman who had just been humiliated in front of everyone stared at him with the same question running through her mind. "Who are you? And why are you doing this for me?" 10 minutes earlier, the crystal ballroom of the Grand Wellington Hotel glittered beneath enormous chandeliers. Soft piano music floated through the room, while waiters moved quietly between tables carrying glasses of champagne. It was the annual gala of Harrington & Co., one of the fastest-growing investment firms in Chicago. For most employees, tonight meant expensive food, networking, and speeches they would forget by morning. For Anna Collins, tonight meant hope. She sat near the back of the ballroom in a simple navy blue dress she had borrowed from her cousin. It wasn't designer. It wasn't fashionable. But it was the nicest thing she owned. She had spent nearly an hour ironing it after coming home from work the previous night. Her mother had smiled when she left the apartment. "You already look like a winner." Anna had laughed. "I'll only be a winner if they actually call my name." Her mother simply kissed her forehead. "They will." Anna wanted to believe her. For 3 years, she had worked harder than anyone else in the accounting department. She arrived before sunrise. She often left long after security had locked half the building. She never complained. She never asked for recognition. She simply believed that someday, hard work would finally matter. On every table lay a printed program. Near the bottom was one line she had read at least 20 times. Employee of the Year Award. Several coworkers had quietly congratulated her during the week. "I heard Kyle already submitted your name. You practically carried the department this year. You deserve it." Even Kyle, her department manager, had smiled strangely that morning. "Wear something nice tonight." She had mistaken that smile for kindness. Now she realized it had meant something entirely different. At precisely 7:30, the lights dimmed. The company's CEO welcomed everyone with a short speech before inviting department managers to present annual awards. One by one, names were announced. Applause echoed through the ballroom. Smiles, photos, champagne. Everything felt predictable, until Kyle stepped onto the stage. He adjusted his expensive cufflinks before approaching the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," his smile looked polished, practiced. "I've been looking forward to presenting this award." He opened a gold envelope. "The Employee of the Year." He paused dramatically. "Our department received dozens of recommendations." Anna felt her heartbeat quicken. Kyle looked directly at her. For just a second, she thought he was about to congratulate her. Instead, he chuckled. "You know," he said into the microphone, "I was actually planning to give this award to Anna Collins." Several heads immediately turned toward her table. Anna instinctively began to stand. Kyle raised a hand. "But then I remembered something." She froze. The room became strangely quiet. Kyle continued, "This award isn't just about working hard. It's about representing the image of this company." A few people exchanged confused glances. Kyle smiled wider. "And honestly, I'm not sure someone who grew up serving food from a street cart with her mother represents the future of Harrington & Co." A ripple of laughter spread across the ballroom. Anna slowly sat back down, her face drained of color. Kyle wasn't finished. He shrugged dramatically. "Let's be realistic. A night school accounting degree. No influential family. No connections. No money." He looked directly at her. "How far can someone like that really go?" This time the laughter came louder. Not everyone laughed. Some people looked uncomfortable. Others lowered their eyes. But nobody spoke. Nobody defended her. Anna stared silently at the tablecloth. Her fingers tightened around her teacup. She could hear every heartbeat inside her chest. She wanted to disappear. Kyle lifted another envelope. "So, the Employee of the Year Award goes to..." He smiled toward a young man standing near the front. "Daniel Brooks." The room applauded. Daniel walked to the stage awkwardly. Even he looked surprised. When Kyle handed him the crystal trophy, Daniel whispered quietly, "I thought Anna earned this." Kyle's smile disappeared for a split second. Then he leaned closer. "Take the award." Daniel hesitated, but cameras were already flashing. He accepted it. Across the ballroom, Anna forced herself to clap. Her hands barely moved. She had promised herself years ago that no matter how unfair life became, she would never let people see her cry. Not after her father's funeral. Not after watching her mother work 16-hour days selling dumplings on a freezing street corner. Not after studying accounting textbooks under flickering kitchen lights because they couldn't afford proper electricity every month. She had survived worse. She could survive this too. Or at least, that's what she kept telling herself. Kyle raised his champagne glass. Before we continue, I'd like to offer one final piece of career advice. The ballroom quieted again. He looked straight at Anna. Talent matters, but background matters more. If you're born poor, he took a sip. Your job is to make successful people look even better. A few executives laughed. Someone actually applauded. Anna's grip became so tight that the porcelain cup trembled in her hands. Hot tea spilled across her fingers. She didn't even notice. Inside, something finally broke. Not her confidence, not her pride, just the last tiny belief that hard work alone could protect someone from cruelty. She slowly stood, not to argue, not to defend herself, only to leave. She picked up her handbag without looking at anyone. Every step toward the ballroom exit felt heavier than the last. Behind her, more laughter followed. Then, a chair scraped loudly across the marble floor. The sound echoed through the ballroom. It wasn't loud because of force. It was loud because every other sound had suddenly stopped. Anna turned. So did everyone else. A tall man in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit had risen from one of the VIP tables near the back of the room. No one recognized him. Not the executives, not the board members, not even the CEO. Without saying a word, he buttoned his jacket. Then he began walking toward the stage, slowly, confidently, as if he had all the time in the world. And somehow, the entire room instinctively moved out of his way. The ballroom remained silent as the stranger walked toward the stage. Not a single person laughed anymore. The employees who had mocked Anna moments earlier suddenly looked away. The executives who had ignored her humiliation watched carefully. Because something about this man was different. He didn't walk like a guest. He walked like someone who belonged there, like someone who had every right to stand in the center of that room. Kyle watched him approach with an annoyed expression. At first, he assumed the man was just another wealthy guest trying to impress people. Perhaps a friend of one of the shareholders. Perhaps someone who had too much champagne and wanted attention. Kyle stepped forward. "Excuse me." His voice carried through the ballroom. "This is a private company event." The stranger stopped at the bottom of the stage. He looked at Kyle calmly. "I know." 2 simple words. Nothing more. But somehow, they made Kyle uncomfortable. The stranger reached inside his jacket and pulled out a small black folder. Not a phone. Not a business card. A folder. Something prepared. Something planned. Kyle's expression changed slightly. "Who exactly are you?" The man didn't answer immediately. Instead, he turned his eyes toward Anna. For the first time that night, someone looked at her without judgment, without pity, without curiosity, just respect. Anna stood frozen near the exit. She didn't understand what was happening. She had never seen this man before. She was certain of it. So why was he looking at her like he knew her? The stranger finally spoke. "My name is Marcus Reed." A few people whispered. The name sounded familiar. But nobody could place it. Kyle crossed his arms. "Mr. Reed, unless you have an invitation to present an award, I suggest you return to your table." Marcus looked at him. "I didn't come here to present an award." A pause. "I came here because someone in this room forgot what this company was built on." The CEO, Robert Harrington, stood from his seat. He looked confused. "Mr. Reed?" His voice suddenly became more careful. "May I ask how you know about tonight's event?" Marcus looked at him. "Because I received the invitation." The CEO frowned. "I don't remember approving." He stopped. Something crossed his face. A realization. A possibility. But before he could say anything, Marcus placed the black folder on the stage. "I believe this belongs to the board." Kyle glanced at the folder, then at Marcus. "You still haven't answered my question." Marcus turned toward him. "Which question?" Kyle forced a smile. "Who are you?" For the first time, Marcus smiled. Not warmly. Not arrogantly. Just slightly. The kind of smile someone gives when they know the answer will change everything. "I am the person who has been paying attention." The room became uncomfortable. Kyle laughed. "Paying attention?" He looked around. "Are we seriously letting a stranger interrupt our company's ceremony?" Several employees nodded. A few even laughed nervously. Kyle felt confident again. He pointed toward Anna. Is this about her? He shook his head. I understand. His voice became mocking. Maybe she complained to you because she didn't win an award. Anna's face tightened. She hadn't. She had never complained about anything. Not once. Marcus looked at Kyle. You think this is about an award? Kyle hesitated. Marcus continued. No. This is about 3 years of silence. Those words changed the atmosphere. Anna looked up. 3 years? Why would this stranger mention 3 years? Marcus opened the folder. Inside were several documents, old reports, financial statements, internal records. Kyle's confidence began to disappear. Where did you get those? Marcus ignored the question. Instead, he looked toward the CEO. Do you remember the accounting investigation 3 years ago? The CEO's face changed. Slowly. Carefully. Yes. The room became quiet again. 3 years ago, Harrington & Co. had almost collapsed. Millions of dollars had disappeared through hidden transactions. A group of executives had blamed a software error. The company survived, but nobody ever discovered who found the problem first. Marcus looked around the ballroom. Everyone here remembers that crisis. But most people don't know who prevented it from becoming a disaster. Kyle suddenly stepped forward. That's old history. Marcus turned. Is it? Kyle's jaw tightened. Yes. That issue was resolved. Marcus nodded. Interesting. A single word. But Kyle looked nervous, because Marcus wasn't angry. Anger was predictable. This was different. This was someone calmly collecting evidence. Marcus picked up one document. 3 years ago, an anonymous report was sent to the board. The room remained silent. The report identified suspicious transactions hidden through 6 different accounts. Several executives exchanged looks. Marcus continued. The report saved this company from losing hundreds of millions of dollars. A few employees whispered. Nobody knew that. Nobody. Kyle cleared his throat. And what does that have to do with tonight? Marcus looked directly at Anna. Everything. Anna felt her heart stop for a moment. She had no idea what he was talking about. She had written that report. But nobody knew. Not even her closest friends. She had been afraid. Afraid of losing her job. Afraid of retaliation. So she submitted it anonymously. And after the investigation ended, she stayed quiet. Because she didn't want praise. She just wanted people to keep their jobs. Marcus held the document. The person who submitted this report never asked for money. Never asked for promotion. Never asked for recognition. His eyes remained on Anna. They only wanted to stop innocent employees from losing everything. The room slowly turned toward her. For the first time that night, they weren't looking down at her. They were looking at her differently. Kyle noticed, and he didn't like it. Wait. Kyle laughed nervously. You can't seriously be saying... He pointed toward Anna. Her? Marcus said nothing. Kyle smiled. A woman who barely finished night school? A junior accountant? You expect us to believe she discovered a financial fraud that our executives couldn't find. Marcus closed the folder. Then he said quietly, yes. One word. No explanation. No argument. Just certainty. Kyle's smile faded. Because confidence doesn't come from someone who guesses. It comes from someone who already knows. Marcus walked closer to the stage. Then he looked at the entire room. You celebrated the wrong person tonight. He looked at Daniel, holding the award. Daniel lowered his eyes. You rewarded the loudest voice. Then he looked at Anna. But you ignored the person who actually protected this company. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved. The woman they had laughed at 5 minutes earlier was suddenly the person everyone wanted answers from. But Marcus wasn't finished. Not even close. Because the biggest secret wasn't that Anna saved Harrington & Co. The biggest secret was why Marcus Reed had spent 3 years searching for her, and why he had finally decided to reveal himself tonight. 3 years earlier, before the expensive ballroom, before the company gala, before anyone knew her name, Anna Collins was just another employee nobody noticed. She sat at the smallest desk on the accounting floor of Harrington & Co. The desk was located near the storage room, far away from the managers, far away from the executives, far away from anyone important. That was where people like Anna usually ended up. The employees with connections sat near the windows. The employees with wealthy families received the best projects. The employees who knew how to impress people were invited to meetings. Anna? Anna was given the work nobody wanted. Late-night financial checks, old files, messy spreadsheets, reports that needed to be fixed before morning. But she never complained. Because Anna had learned something from her mother. When you don't have power, you build value. Every morning, Anna arrived at the office before everyone else. She carried the same worn leather bag her father had bought her years ago. Inside were three things she never left home without: her calculator, her notebook, and a small picture of her parents. Her father had been an accountant at a small local business. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, but he was honest. He used to tell her, "Numbers are like people, Anna. They always tell the truth." She never forgot those words, especially on the night she discovered something that could destroy an entire company. It started with a simple mistake, a number that didn't look right. Anna was reviewing quarterly financial reports after everyone else had gone home. The office was almost completely dark. Only the light above her desk remained on. Most people would have ignored the difference. A few $1,000s hidden inside millions of transactions. A tiny mistake. An insignificant detail. But Anna noticed, because she always noticed. She followed the numbers. One transaction, then another, then another. Slowly, a pattern appeared. Money wasn't disappearing randomly. Someone was moving it through different accounts. Small amounts, carefully hidden, designed to avoid attention. Anna leaned back in her chair. Her heart started beating faster. This wasn't an accounting error. This was intentional. Someone inside the company was stealing. The next morning, Anna brought the documents to her manager, Kyle Mitchell. At the time, she still believed he was someone she could trust. She knocked on his office door. "Come in." Kyle didn't look up from his computer. Anna placed the documents on his desk. "I think there may be a problem with the vendor accounts." Kyle finally looked at the papers. "What kind of problem?" "I found several payments that don't match the approved records." She pointed at the highlighted sections. "If we trace these accounts, I think we might find—" Kyle interrupted. "Anna," his voice changed. Not angry. Not yet. Just colder. "Do you understand what you're saying?" She hesitated. "I'm saying someone may be manipulating company funds." Kyle stared at her. Then he laughed. Not loudly. Almost like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You've been here less than a year." Anna stayed silent. "You think you found something that our senior accountants missed?" "I didn't say that, but you implied it." Kyle leaned back. "Listen carefully." His eyes became serious. "You are smart." For a moment, Anna thought he was complimenting her. Then he continued. "But intelligence without experience can become dangerous." Anna lowered her eyes. "What should I do?" Kyle picked up the documents. "I'll handle it." For the next 2 weeks, Anna waited. Nothing happened. No investigation. No questions. No meetings. The reports disappeared. She assumed Kyle was dealing with it. Until she saw something that made her stomach drop. A company announcement. Kyle Mitchell leads successful internal audit review. The article praised him for discovering financial irregularities and protecting the company. There was even a picture. Kyle standing beside executives, smiling, accepting congratulations. Anna stared at the screen. She couldn't understand. The information he presented was hers. The evidence he used was hers. The discovery that saved the company was hers. But nobody knew. Nobody except Kyle. That evening, Anna confronted him. She waited until everyone left. "Kyle." He looked annoyed. "What? Why did you present my findings as yours?" The room became quiet. Kyle slowly stood. "Be careful." Anna frowned. "Why?" "Because accusations like that can damage your career." She couldn't believe what she was hearing. "I gave you those documents." Kyle smiled. A cold smile. "Did you?" Anna froze. "What?" He walked closer. "You showed me a few numbers. I turned them into a complete investigation. There's a difference." Anna felt anger rising inside her. "But the evidence?" Kyle interrupted. "Who do you think people will believe?" That question hurt more than anything, because she already knew the answer. Not the junior accountant, not the girl from a poor family, not someone who went to night school. They would believe the manager. From that day forward, Kyle changed. He stopped pretending to respect her. He gave her impossible deadlines. He blamed her for mistakes made by others. He blocked her from important meetings. Whenever she tried to speak, he reminded her, "You should be grateful you have this job." Anna stayed quiet, not because she was weak, because she understood something. People like Kyle didn't fear anger. They feared proof. And Anna didn't have proof. Not yet. 3 months later, the board announced the financial crisis had been resolved. Harrington & Co. survived. Thousands of employees kept their jobs. But nobody knew the truth. The person who saved them was sitting alone in a corner office, watching the man who stole her work receive praise. That night, Anna opened her computer. She created a new report. This time, she didn't send it to Kyle. She didn't trust him anymore. She didn't know who she could trust, so she sent it directly to the board, anonymously. Attached to the report was one message, only one sentence. I don't need credit. I just don't want innocent people to suffer. 3 days later, the investigation began. Kyle panicked. Executives started asking questions. Hidden transactions were uncovered. The company survived, but the person who revealed everything disappeared into the background. Nobody knew who the anonymous employee was. Except one person, a man who had received that report while reviewing the company's emergency restructuring plan. A man who noticed something unusual, the writing, the logic, the honesty behind the numbers. That man was Marcus Reed, and for 3 years, he had been searching for the person who wrote those words. Back in the present, the ballroom remained silent. Marcus looked at Anna. You probably wondered why nobody ever thanked you. Anna didn't answer, because she didn't know what to say. Marcus continued. That's because the person who received your report, he paused, was me. Anna's eyes widened. For the first time that night, she understood. This stranger wasn't protecting her because he felt sorry for her. He wasn't helping her because she was powerless. He was there because he had known the truth long before anyone else. But there was still one question everyone wanted answered. If Marcus knew Anna saved the company 3 years ago, why did he wait until tonight to reveal himself? The ballroom remained frozen. Nobody moved. Nobody whispered, because everyone was trying to understand the same thing. The woman they had laughed at moments ago was the person who had protected their jobs 3 years earlier. And the stranger standing beside her was the only person who knew the truth. Anna stared at Marcus. Her mind was filled with questions. Why had he never contacted her? Why had he watched silently for 3 years? Why reveal everything tonight? Marcus looked at the room full of executives. Then he looked at Kyle. And somehow, Kyle looked more afraid than anyone else. You're lying. Kyle finally spoke. His voice was quieter now, but the confidence was gone. Marcus turned toward him. Kyle forced a laugh. This is ridiculous. He pointed toward the documents. You expect everyone here to believe a random employee discovered a billion-dollar problem? Marcus didn't react. Kyle continued. Where is the evidence? A few executives looked uncertain. They wanted proof. Not just a story. Marcus nodded slightly. I was hoping you would ask. He opened the folder again. Inside were copies of the original documents, not the edited versions, not the reports presented to management. The original files, the ones Anna created 3 years ago. I reviewed this company's financial structure before investing. Marcus placed the first document on the table. These files were submitted anonymously. He placed another. This version was modified later. Another document. And this version was used during your presentation to the board. The room became tense. Kyle's face changed. Only slightly. But enough. Marcus noticed. Everyone noticed. The CEO, Robert Harrington, stood slowly. Mr. Reed. His voice was careful. Are you saying Kyle altered the report? Marcus looked at him. I'm saying the evidence will answer that question. He didn't accuse. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. The truth was already speaking. Anna watched silently. For years she had imagined this moment. A moment where someone finally believed her. But she never imagined it would happen like this. In front of everyone. With someone powerful enough to make the entire room listen. Kyle stepped forward. You don't understand how this company works. Marcus looked at him. Explain. Kyle hesitated. The room waited. He searched for words. You can't just walk in here and destroy someone's reputation. Marcus nodded. You're right. A small silence. Reputations should not be destroyed without evidence. He looked at the executives. That's why I brought evidence. Then he looked back at Kyle. Not rumors. Kyle swallowed. A senior board member picked up the documents. She quickly scanned through them. Then her expression changed. This, she looked at Marcus. This is the original timestamp. Another board member checked. Then another. The atmosphere shifted. Because these people understood numbers. They understood records. They understood exactly what they were seeing. Kyle had not discovered the fraud. He had taken credit for stopping it. The room that once laughed at Anna was now silent because of him. But Marcus wasn't finished. He walked back toward the center of the room. There is something else. Everyone looked at him. 3 words, but they carried weight. Something else. Marcus turned toward Anna. When the investigation ended, why didn't you tell anyone? Anna looked confused. What? You could have claimed credit. She lowered her eyes. I didn't think it mattered. A few people looked surprised. Marcus continued. You lost a promotion. You lost recognition. You watched someone else receive praise for your work. Anna remained quiet. Why? The room waited for her answer. She took a breath. Because the company was saved. Her voice was soft. That's what mattered. Marcus looked at her for several seconds. Almost like he was confirming something he already knew. Then he said, exactly. Kyle laughed suddenly. But it sounded desperate. This is unbelievable. Everyone looked at him. He shook his head. You all are acting like she's some hero. He pointed at Anna. She was just doing her job. Marcus looked at him. And you weren't. The words hit harder than a shout. Kyle's expression changed. Marcus continued. Doing your job is expected. Taking credit for someone else's work is a choice. The room went silent. Then Marcus turned toward the CEO. Robert. The CEO straightened. It was the first time Marcus had called him by his first name. Yes? Marcus reached into his jacket. He pulled out another document. This time, everyone recognized the logo at the top. Harrington & Co. But underneath it was a different name. A holding company. One most employees had never heard of. Marcus placed it on the table. I believe it's time everyone knows who has been protecting this company. The CEO stared at the document. Then his eyes widened. No. A few executives looked confused. What is it? The CEO didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he knew exactly what that document meant. Marcus finally looked around the ballroom. My company acquired a controlling interest in Harrington & Co. 18 months ago. Silence. Nobody breathed. Kyle frowned. Impossible. Marcus continued. Through a private investment fund. He paused. A fund that owns 68% of this company. The room exploded with whispers. 68%. Controlling ownership. The person everyone thought was a stranger was not a guest, not a partner, not an investor. He was the person who had the power to decide the future of everyone in that room. Kyle's face became pale. You? He stared at Marcus. You own this company? Marcus looked at him. No. A pause. I protect what I own. That sentence sent a chill through the room. Because everyone finally understood. This wasn't a random act of kindness. This wasn't a rich man defending a poor employee. Marcus Reed had been watching this company from the shadows, and tonight, he had chosen to step into the light. Anna looked at Marcus. Why? Her voice was barely audible. Why did you wait? Marcus looked at her. For a moment, his expression softened. Then he answered. Because I needed to know something. Anna waited. What? Marcus glanced around the room. I needed to know if the company had changed. A pause. Or if you were still the only person here who hadn't. Anna didn't understand. Not yet. But Marcus did. Because the reason he had been watching her for 3 years was not only because of the report. There was another secret. A secret connected to the day her father died. A secret Anna had never discovered. For the first time in years, Kyle Mitchell had nothing to say. The man who had spent his entire career controlling conversations, manipulating meetings, and making others feel small, was standing in the middle of a ballroom full of people who finally saw him clearly. Not as a successful manager, not as a respected leader, but as someone who had built his reputation on someone else's sacrifice. Marcus Reed stood calmly beside the stage. He didn't look angry. That was what frightened Kyle the most. Angry people could make mistakes. Angry people could be distracted. But Marcus wasn't angry. He was prepared. Kyle looked around the room. The executives who once smiled at him avoided his eyes. The employees who had laughed with him now stood silently. Even Daniel, the man who received the Employee of the Year award, looked uncomfortable holding the trophy. Kyle pointed toward Marcus. You planned this. Marcus looked at him. What do you mean? You came here tonight knowing exactly what would happen. Marcus didn't deny it. Yes. The honesty surprised everyone. Kyle laughed. So this was a setup? Marcus shook his head. No. A pause. This was an opportunity. For what? Marcus looked at Anna. For everyone to see who people really are when they think nobody important is watching. The words landed heavily. Because that was exactly what happened. When Anna had no power, people showed their true colors. The CEO stepped forward. Mr. Reed? His voice was nervous. What happens now? Everyone waited. Because that was the question that mattered. Marcus looked toward the board members. I believe there should be an immediate internal review, Kyle interrupted. An internal review? He smiled. You can't just remove me based on old accusations. Marcus nodded. Correct. Kyle relaxed slightly. Then Marcus continued. That's why I already completed one. The room froze. Kyle's expression changed. What? Marcus opened another folder. This is not based only on the report from 3 years ago. He placed several documents on the table. This includes employee complaints. Another document. Performance records. Another. And financial decisions approved under your authority. Kyle stared. His confidence was disappearing. Because this wasn't about one mistake. It was about a pattern. Marcus looked at the board. For 3 years, Kyle Mitchell has used his position to control information. He picked up one report. He blocked employees from reporting problems. Another, he took credit for work performed by junior staff. Another, he pressured employees into accepting unfair conditions because he controlled their promotions. The room remained silent. Anna looked down because she remembered every moment, every time she wanted to speak, every time she stopped herself, every time she wondered if maybe she wasn't good enough. Kyle suddenly turned toward Anna. This is because of you. The room became tense. Anna looked up. Kyle stepped closer. You couldn't accept losing an award. Anna stared at him. That's not true. Kyle laughed. Isn't it? He looked around. Everyone knows people like her. Always looking for someone to blame. A few employees looked uncomfortable. But this time, nobody laughed. Because they knew the truth now. Marcus stepped between them. Not aggressively. Just enough. Kyle. The manager stopped. Marcus's voice was calm. Choose your next words carefully. Kyle stared at him. For a second, he looked like he wanted to fight. Then he remembered. This man owned the company. Marcus turned back to the board. However, everyone looked surprised. He continued. I am not interested in revenge. Kyle looked confused. Marcus walked toward him. You will not be fired tonight. A wave of whispers spread. Even Kyle looked shocked. What? Marcus continued. Starting tomorrow, you will no longer be department head. Kyle's face turned red. You can't, Marcus interrupted. I can. A pause. And I will. The room went silent again. Marcus continued. You will remain employed. But under a different role. Kyle frowned. What role? Marcus looked directly at him. Junior accounting associate. The entire room went quiet. The same department where Anna started. The same level Kyle once considered beneath him. Kyle looked almost offended. You expect me to work under people I managed? Marcus nodded. Yes. Why? Marcus answered immediately. Because for 1 year, you need to understand something. Kyle waited. What? Marcus looked around the room. How it feels when someone else decides your value before knowing your worth. Nobody spoke. Because everyone understood. This wasn't punishment. It was a lesson. Then Marcus turned toward Anna. And the entire atmosphere changed. His expression became softer. Anna Collins. She looked at him. Yes? I have an offer for you. She looked confused. An offer? Marcus nodded. Head of internal controls. The ballroom reacted immediately. A few people gasped. Kyle looked shocked. Daniel stared. Even the CEO looked surprised. Anna couldn't move. She struggled to find words. That's not possible. Marcus tilted his head slightly. Why not? Because, she looked around. Because I don't have the experience. Marcus answered. You have something more important. What? Integrity. The room became silent. Anna looked at Marcus. You barely know me. For the first time that night, Marcus smiled. A real smile. Not the controlled expression everyone else saw. You think I barely know you? Anna didn't understand. Marcus looked toward the window. 3 years ago, you found a problem that could have made you rich. She listened. You could have exposed the company. You could have demanded money. You could have destroyed people. A pause. But you didn't. He looked back at her. You protected people who didn't even know your name. Anna felt tears forming. Not because she was being promoted. Not because everyone was finally respecting her. Because after 3 years, someone finally understood why she made the choices she made. But then, Marcus said something that changed everything. There's another reason I chose you. Anna looked up. What reason? Marcus glanced at the small photograph attached inside her old leather bag. a photograph she carried every day, a photograph of her parents. His expression changed, just for a second, but Anna noticed. Because Marcus Reed, the powerful investor who seemed impossible to surprise, looked at her father's picture like he had seen it before. Anna's heartbeat slowed. "Do you know my father?" The question escaped before she could stop it. Marcus didn't answer. Not immediately. He looked away, and for the first time that night, he seemed uncertain. The ballroom had finally learned the truth about Anna. But Anna had just discovered something even more important. Marcus Reed wasn't only connected to her career, he was connected to her past, and whatever secret he was hiding was something he had kept for a very long time. The question remained hanging in the air. "Do you know my father?" Nobody else in the ballroom seemed to understand why Anna had asked that. To them, it was just a strange question, a coincidence, a moment of confusion after an emotional night. But Marcus Reed knew, because that question was the one he had been hoping she would never ask. Not yet. Not tonight. He looked at the photograph inside Anna's old leather bag. A picture of a man with a warm smile. A man who had spent his life working honestly. A man who had left behind more than Anna ever realized. Marcus slowly looked back at her. "Your father was named Michael Collins." Anna froze. Hearing his name from a stranger's mouth felt impossible. "Yes." Her voice became quieter. "How do you know that?" Marcus didn't answer immediately. Instead, he looked around the ballroom. The people who had mocked Anna. The people who had ignored her. The people who had judged her without knowing her story. Then he looked back at her. "Because your father was the reason I became interested in this company." Anna frowned. "My father never worked here." Marcus nodded. "You're right." A pause. He didn't. 3 years earlier, before Marcus Reed became the majority owner of Harrington & Co., he was not looking for another investment. He was investigating a problem that had nothing to do with money. A problem involving trust. At the time, Marcus was leading a private investment group that specialized in rebuilding struggling companies. Most people thought his job was simple: buy companies, fix problems, make profits. But Marcus believed something different. A company was not just numbers on paper. It was the people behind those numbers. And when he studied Harrington & Co., he noticed something unusual. The company wasn't failing because of the market. It wasn't failing because of competition. It was failing because dishonest people had slowly taken control. Then he found something unexpected. A small anonymous report. A report written by someone nobody important knew. A report that contained information even senior executives missed. Marcus remembered reading the final sentence. "I don't need credit. I just don't want innocent people to suffer." Most people who expose corruption want something. Money, recognition, revenge. But whoever wrote that message wanted nothing. That caught his attention. Marcus began searching. At first, he only wanted to know who the person was. Not because he wanted to reward them, because he wanted to understand them. He followed the records, the employee access code, the submission time, the internal documents. Eventually, he found Anna, a junior accountant, a woman who arrived early, a woman who stayed late, a woman who apologized even when others made mistakes, a woman who quietly paid for her mother's medical bills while pretending everything was fine. Marcus watched from a distance, not like a detective, like someone trying to answer a question. Was honesty still real? Or was it just something people talked about? Anna answered that question every day. Back in the ballroom, Anna listened silently. She didn't know what to say. "So you knew about me?" Marcus nodded. "Yes." "For 3 years?" "Yes." The answer was so simple that it almost hurt. Anna looked away. "Why didn't you tell me?" Marcus understood the question. Because if someone had secretly watched her struggle for 3 years, she deserved an explanation. "I wanted to." "Then why didn't you?" Marcus looked toward the stage. "Because I needed to see what happened when nobody knew I was watching." Anna didn't understand. Marcus continued. "When people think power is nearby, they behave differently." His eyes moved around the room. They become polite. They become careful. They pretend to care. Then he looked at Anna. But when they believe nobody important is watching, they reveal themselves. Anna thought about Kyle. The laughter, the comments, the humiliation. She understood. Marcus turned back to the board. "There is one final matter." The executives looked at him. "Before I acquired controlling ownership of Harrington & Co., I reviewed every major decision made by senior management." He looked at Kyle. "That included your decisions." Kyle's face tightened. "What are you talking about?" Marcus opened another file. This. He handed it to the CEO. The CEO read the first page. Then his expression changed. What is this? Marcus answered. The original reason your company was almost destroyed. The room became silent. Kyle stared. That's impossible. Marcus shook his head. No. A pause. It's simply something you hoped nobody would find. The CEO continued reading. His hands became tense. These transactions. He looked at Kyle. These were approved under your department. Kyle immediately responded. No. His voice rose. No, I didn't approve anything illegal. Marcus nodded. I agree. Everyone looked confused. Marcus continued. You didn't personally create the fraud. Kyle relaxed slightly. Then Marcus finished. But you helped hide it. The room went silent. Kyle stepped backward. You can't prove that. Marcus looked at him. I already did. He pointed toward the documents. The original files show you received warnings. The emails show you ignored them. The records show you moved employees away from the investigation. Kyle's face turned pale. Because this wasn't just about stealing credit anymore. This was about protecting himself. He had known. He had seen the warning signs. And he chose silence. Anna looked at Marcus. You knew all of this? Marcus nodded. Yes. Then why didn't you expose him 3 years ago? The question surprised everyone. Because it was true. If Marcus knew, why wait? Marcus looked at her. Because I needed the final piece. What piece? He looked down at the photograph of her father. The reason your father died. Anna stopped breathing. The room disappeared. For a moment, there was only that sentence. My father died because of this? Marcus didn't answer. Not immediately. And that silence was more frightening than any explanation. Because Anna had spent years believing her father's death was simply an accident. A tragic event. Something unavoidable. But now, she wondered if she had been wrong. Marcus slowly said, Anna. His voice was quieter. Your father wasn't just a victim. He was the first person who tried to expose what was happening inside this company. The truth had finally reached the surface. But it was bigger than Anna expected. Her fight was never only about a stolen award. It was never only about Kyle. It went back years. Back to a secret her father took to his grave. And Marcus Reed, the man who seemed to have every answer, was the only person who knew the full story. The ballroom was no longer a place of celebration. It had become a place where old secrets finally came to light. A few hours earlier, Anna Collins had walked into the room believing she was invisible. A junior accountant. A woman nobody important noticed. A person whose hard work disappeared behind someone else's name. But now, everyone in the room knew the truth. She had saved the company. She had uncovered the fraud. She had protected thousands of employees without asking for anything in return. And the man standing beside her, the stranger everyone thought was just another wealthy guest, was the person who had been watching her story unfold for 3 years. But Anna could not stop thinking about one sentence. Your father wasn't just a victim. He was the first person who tried to expose what was happening inside this company. My father knew about this? Anna's voice trembled. Marcus looked at her. Yes. She shook her head slowly. No. She smiled sadly. That doesn't make sense. My father was just an accountant. Marcus nodded. Exactly. The answer confused her. Exactly? Marcus looked around the room. People always underestimate honest people. They think power belongs to those with money, with titles, with connections. A pause. But your father understood something most people forget. Numbers don't lie. Anna looked down. Those words. Those exact words. She had heard them before. Every time she struggled with her work. Every time she doubted herself. Her father used to say the same thing. Marcus reached into his jacket. This time, he didn't pull out a document. He pulled out an old envelope. The edges were worn, like it had been kept for many years. Anna immediately noticed something. The handwriting. Her eyes widened. That. She stepped closer. That's my father's handwriting. The entire room went quiet. Marcus handed her the envelope. I kept this because I wasn't sure when you were ready to see it. Anna's hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a single piece of paper. A letter. Her father's letter. Anna, if you are reading this, it means I was not able to tell you everything myself. Her breathing stopped. She continued reading. I know you will wonder why I kept secrets from you. I want you to understand something. I was never trying to protect myself. I was trying to protect you. Tears slowly formed in her eyes. There are people in this world who believe money gives them the right to control others. They believe ordinary people don't matter. But remember what I always told you. A person's value is not decided by their position. It is decided by their choices. Anna covered her mouth, because those words sounded exactly like her father. Marcus watched quietly. She continued, "If something happens to me, don't spend your life searching for revenge. Spend your life proving that kindness and honesty still matter. That is the only thing worth protecting." The letter ended with one final sentence. "And if you ever meet Marcus Reed, trust him. He knows the truth." Anna looked up, her eyes filled with confusion. "How?" She looked at Marcus. "How did my father know you?" For the first time that night, Marcus looked emotional. "Not angry, not powerful, just human. Your father saved my life." Nobody expected that answer. Anna stared at him. "What?" Marcus took a breath. 20 years ago, before I became who I am today, I was nobody." A faint smile appeared. "I was young. I had ambition. But I didn't have experience." He looked at the old letter. "I made a mistake." "What mistake?" "I trusted the wrong people." Years ago, Marcus had been working on his first major investment, a company that looked successful from the outside. But behind the scenes, executives were hiding massive financial problems. Marcus had been blamed for discovering the truth too late. His reputation was almost destroyed. His career was almost over. Until one accountant stepped forward. Michael Collins, Anna's father. He was the only person willing to tell the truth. Marcus looked at her. He knew speaking up could cost him his job. But he did it anyway. Because he believed protecting innocent people mattered more than protecting himself. Anna wiped her tears. "So my father helped you?" Marcus nodded. "And years later, without knowing it, you did the same thing." The connection finally became clear. Anna didn't save Harrington & Co. by accident. She inherited something from her father. Not money, not status, not power. A belief. A belief that doing the right thing mattered even when nobody was watching. Marcus looked around the room. "That is why I chose you." Anna looked at him. "Not because you were poor, not because you needed help, because when you had every reason to become bitter, you remained kind." The next morning, the news spread quickly. Harrington & Co. announced a complete leadership restructuring. Kyle Mitchell resigned from his position as department head. The internal investigation confirmed multiple violations. His career was no longer built on success. It was built on the reputation he stole from others. But Anna's story changed too. The same people who ignored her now wanted to work with her. The same people who laughed now respected her. But Anna didn't change. She still arrived early. She still helped younger employees. She still carried her father's photograph inside her old leather bag. Several months later, Harrington & Co. was stronger than ever. Under Anna's leadership, the Internal Controls Department became one of the most trusted divisions in the company. Employees no longer feared speaking up, because they knew someone would listen, someone who understood what it felt like to be ignored. One evening, Anna stood on the balcony of the company headquarters. The city lights stretched across the horizon. Marcus joined her. "You know," she smiled. "When this started, I thought you saved me." Marcus looked at her. "I didn't." Anna frowned. "What do you mean?" Marcus looked toward the city. "You saved yourself." A pause. "I only made sure people finally saw it." Anna smiled. Then she noticed something. The small ring on Marcus's hand. The same ring she had noticed months earlier. The one she never asked about. Until now. "Marcus?" He looked at her. "That ring." His expression changed. "Where did you get it?" For several seconds, he said nothing. Then he slowly removed the ring and placed it in her hand. Anna looked closely. Her heart stopped, because engraved inside the ring were two initials. The same initials written on the back of her father's old photograph. MC, Michael Collins, her father. Anna looked up. "What is this?" Marcus stared at the ring. And for the first time, the man who always had answers looked uncertain. "Anna," a long silence. "There is something your father never told you." The city lights reflected in his eyes. "Something about the night he died." Anna felt a chill. "What?" Marcus looked at her. "Your father wasn't alone that night." A pause. "And the person who was with him was me."